one of the biggest mistakes that players make on a daily basis in poker. They don't really recognize how their emotions are impacting their game, because it's easy to play solid while you're winning. They don't make the right adjustments while they're losing.
The Casino King podcast is brought to you by Ignition Casino.
Welcome to the Casino King podcast, episode 1, the biggest mistakes that poker players can make. I'm here with Crazy Sixes, a good friend of mine, Ignition Casino ambassador, and poker coach, to talk through my mistakes, other people's mistakes, and just how new poker players can try to get better. I'm going to get right into it. If you're a new poker player, you walk into the casino for the first time, have never played before, what is the worst thing you could do?
The worst thing you could do is take it too seriously, right? You should probably be there to have fun and not beat yourself up for things you don't know, in my opinion. I would just be, at that point, going there. Obviously, there would be some nerves, but I would really focus on having fun and stacking the experience, right? From that, I think too many new players give themselves a hard time, and they make mistakes. Even more experienced players make mistakes, so they beat themselves up for making mistakes when they should just be enjoying it, taking the experience, and hey, maybe I did make a mistake, let's take notes on it and maybe get better down the line, but I learned something, I had a good time, and I think that should be the approach a lot of new players should take, rather than tilt it. It's my first day and I get tilted. Why did this happen? Like, dude, you made a giant mistake. Like, it doesn't matter. It's okay. Have fun with it,
What are, some of those giant mistakes? What are some of those initial mistakes that you see when you're poker coaching and talking to brand new players to the game? Like, what are things that people can immediately look at in their game and start making changes?
Well, having worked with poker coaching and been able to see all kind of students, players. Some players are going to be way too aggressive and be in there too much, and some players are too tight. So it's really hard to generalize all new players into one bucket, into what kind of mistakes they'll have, because it's personality types, right? Some people come in, they're really aggressive, they're competitive, they want to be in every pot, and some guys are risk adverse and too tight, So I think you see a lot of people come in with either playing too tight or too loose or too splashy. There's just a lot of those type of mistakes initially because they don't really have the fundamental framework of, I need to be folding this range or doing this right. So I think once people get more studied, then they make, learning mistakes. But initially it's just either too loose or too tight, right? Too much overcalling, not enough 3-betting, that kind of stuff.
Of course. And obviously people that are watching this probably aren't going to the casino for the first time. So we'll kind of stray away from just the brand new players. But one last question about brand new players.
Yep.
When you're first getting into it, is it better to play tournaments for low buy-ins or to try to play cash games where each hand is an individual, game and you're either making or obviously it's tougher to make money in poker tournaments at first, but you get more hands. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, obviously, that's more of a lifestyle thing, but I would say, tournaments can really have, it's exciting, it's a lot of fun to start getting deep, and that feeling is like no other. But a lot of the times, you're just going to get knocked out before the money or something like that, which could lead to this feeling of, oh man, I didn't do enough to win the tournament, and some discouragement. So I think maybe coming in, I came into the game as a cash game player, I really enjoyed that. You'd be able to sit there, you could play loose, you could play tight, you could sit there for as long as you want, you can get up when you want, and the ending finality doesn't really happen. That feeling of, oh shit, it's over, and now I don't know what to do with myself that you'll have in tournaments, right? So I would say, I always think, initially it's good for people to come in, play cash, get the fundamentals down. The mistakes aren't as painful in cash games. Obviously they cost you money, but a mistake in a tournament, you're gone, right? You're going home. So, yeah, that's the way I think of it.
And so I talked to Phil Hellmuth about this, and I asked him, what is the biggest mistake that an average poker player makes?
Money management. If you're a great money manager and your talent level's 50%, you have a really good life. But if your talent level's 99% and you're a bad money manager, sometimes you can't pay the bills.
What does that actually look like, money management for poker players, when they're really starting to take this serious? What's the first big step to managing your money?
I've been around for a very long time, and I think that's one of my strong suits. I think a lot of players will either have some success and then play way above their skill level or their buy-in level and want to fire all the big ones. They win 10K the first time and they're firing $500 tournaments, right? Just right out the gate. I think Phil has a great point, managing your money, being disciplined, having a very strict bankroll management. If you plan on doing this for a long term and you don't have any other income, you need to be very strict with your bankroll and be willing to move down when you're having down swings and when you're mentally not there, maybe not always taking the biggest shots and stuff like that. So being disciplined along with the bankroll management are the most important things in this game. Guys take shots they shouldn't take too often. There's vices in the casino on the way out, gambling, right? Spending too much money in other avenues and things like that. So the money management and the bankroll management to stick around are definitely important.
One question I get a lot, and it's so random because I don't make my money from my poker winnings. Like, I make my money from content creation, and I think it's important that people know that. But a lot of people ask me, hey, I want to quit my job and go full online poker for my job. How much money do I need set aside? And so obviously it's tough to put a number on it, but what is the ratio of buy-ins that you need to have in order to really set yourself up for success if you think your skill level is enough to compete on a professional level?
Well, I've always heard the 1 year, 2 years of expenses, depending on this depends on where you're located and things like that. But I always think it's safe to have a year or two of expenses and build on that, right? Give yourself some time. Poker can be a very brutal game no matter how good you are. You're going to experience some variance, some swings, things in life happen, and we don't have that income, right? We don't have a salary. So always protecting yourself, building the biggest bankroll that you can, and setting aside at minimum a year of expenses, I would say. And then for buy-ins, having 1 to 200 buy-ins for your buy-ins, your top buy-ins, right? And these sound hard to achieve, but that's why it's important to stay consistent, stay disciplined, and just take your time and be patient with the process. A lot of people get impatient. I had someone hit me up. They got discouraged after 300 games of tournaments of numbers like, buddy, that's nothing, right? Like, that's 1 month. It's not a lot of volume. So it's going to take some time, and be patient and celebrate your wins and the things you are doing positive, right? A lot of people are afraid of the downswings and the bad things and only focus on that and don't focus on the positive things they are accomplishing, right?
And I think you brought up an interesting point, which brought up a question in my head, is just say you cash that tournament, right? Like, you cash that tournament for $20,000. It was $1,000 buy-in or something. Where, when you're making your money from poker, where do you siphon off money for your bills, for your expenses? Where do you decide to reinvest into poker? Like, because, the rec player would take that money and maybe buy a car. But obviously that's not realistic, right? So, yeah. or the recreational player. But like, how do you approach it when you have a big win like that and you're first starting to figure out this money goes towards bills, this money goes back into poker?
Well, yeah, it comes to that bankroll management thing. Like, if I haven't necessarily reached a level in my bankroll where I think I can move up even with a big score, it does nothing. It's just I'm allocating a percentage of those funds into my bigger fund, which gives me the ability to have the freedom to keep playing. Right? That's more important than instantly moving up, right? Having the ability to continue to play the stakes that you're profitable enough to make a living and do well at, right? And play those stakes in games you can beat for longer, rather than moving up and taking more risk in games you're uncertain about, if that makes,
Absolutely.
So yeah, just taking a percentage of that and then setting it aside and then, allocate, okay, now my bankroll increased by this and I'm closer to that goal. I'm not necessarily there, but, we're comfortable, and let's keep beating the stakes in the games that we're beating and doing better from there, right? And not being in such a big rush to play the biggest stakes in the biggest games or have the biggest success. Like, let's just beat games we can play well,
As you moved up stakes, was there a difference in the games? Like, when you went from, 1-2 to 2-5 to 5-10, was there a big difference between any of those stakes, or is it the same game?
Yeah, but well, to be clear, I'm not much. I don't play a lot of cash like that, you know. I'm mostly on the tournament side. So coming from, say, when I first started, $5 and $10 tournaments, 3 5s and 10s is what I started with a very small bankroll to be able to play the 300s, the 500s, and the 200s and things like that pretty consistently. Yeah, there's a gigantic skill edge. People are making a lot less mistakes. Your game, you need to blunder less. People aren't going to gift you stacks as much as you see. People at the lower stakes are just playing for pure entertainment, right? Some guys are just home watching Netflix and clicking buttons. But at the higher stakes, people are taking it a lot more serious, a lot more professional players. So you certainly need to be sharper, feel your best, play your best a lot more in those games, right? And I found that needing to have a confidence, study more, play better, more consistently at those stakes is very important.
Absolutely. You brought up something a little bit ago about walking out of the casino, having to pass the gambling tables. When I talked to Eric Persson, he said the biggest mistake poker players make is too many distractions.
There's so many mistakes that poker players make, whether it's playing in games that they don't have the right bankroll for, or whether it's having leaks like alcohol, drugs, and partying, sports betting, whether it's having a girlfriend who doesn't want them to play poker.
What were your biggest distractions as you were still getting into poker, and how did you decide, or how did you balance them?
Oh man, I mean, in my early days, I was one of the guys that was obsessed pre-Black Friday, so it's all I did. There was no distractions. I was playing 2 sessions a day, 5 days a week, and it was everything to me, you know? And I think distractions are very, very important. When I came back, I have a young family now. You know, I took the break from after Black Friday, took some years off. So when I came back, the family isn't the distraction, right? So I allocate my time there, my health. And then I have to punt the other distractions for the most part, right? The sports, can't watch football, basketball games. I have to study and spend the time with the family and then play and content. So I don't have much time for distractions. Still find some time for some escapism a little bit with video games, but not much of a gambler. I don't need to go out and do that kind of stuff. I have a family at home, so I really just try to focus on the coaching, the poker, and stuff like that. So for me, right now, the only way for me to make it is to have as few distractions as possible to get to this point, right? Especially with the family. I think when you guys have families and when people have a family or significant others, you're going to have to give up some things to be able to be successful at poker. You're going to have to sacrifice some things, right? And get rid of those things if you actually want to make it. And I've been aware of that right away,
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And also, for everybody watching this, we were in Vegas after dinner and I was trying to get Sixes to gamble with me. And he does draw a line, he's like, I don't need to play blackjack. I'll hang out, I'll do whatever, but I'm not going to, punt some money on roulette. And that's that's something I got to work on a daily basis. We're trying to make it through. But one thing that I think a lot of people notice, right, is alcohol. And there are people that drink while they play poker, and a lot of people think that it gives them more confidence. What are your thoughts on drinking while playing? Do you think that it's harmful? Do you think that it doesn't really matter? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think it comes down to like the person in the driver's seat who's drinking. Like if they're having very little bit, I've seen guys that can have 1 or 2 and it doesn't affect them at all. It might even help them a little bit. It's hard to say, but overall, I think if you're continuously doing it, it's definitely going to hurt you, right? Like I'll be on stream and have 1. I have a strict rule, maybe 1. Sometimes it's a very long session, 2. But I'm never really drinking to get a buzzer and get intoxicated. Just like I'm sitting here playing poker, having 1 beer. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But the people who use it to drink heavy alcohol, drink really hard and things like that and believe that's going to help them, I think that can be pretty problematic. I do understand it can take the edge off for people who get nervous, but yeah, I don't know about the drinking really hard. I don't think that's good.
Yeah, I think it makes you, when I've played with players that are drinking way more than 2, the issue that I see is that you're not as, you don't understand how many things you're giving off, right? Like as the night goes on, especially in a tournament, and you could play wild, you could play confident, but people pick up on that and you're not able to adjust as quickly.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Like for live poker, I'm only drinking a beer like last level of the night. Like the last few hands or something like that, I would never drink during a live tournament. There's just no way. And I do think I see players that do it and play long cash session drinking. it just doesn't seem. It just seems like they're losing infinite over time. Like just giving up stuff, playing way too loose. And yeah, I agree with you, man.
One last person I talked to about this was Mickey, who, if you watch much poker online, he's a big gambler. Loves playing poker, but he loves gambling.
I love Mickey, yeah.
And I asked him, what he thought the biggest mistake was that poker players or casino people make. And he said just expecting to win.
I think that if someone's going to go to a casino, whatever money they'd be willing to spend on the experience of going to the casino is what they should be willing to lose. Similar like buying a ticket to a concert or a theme park. And if they're losing more than they would have paid for that experience outright, then they're in a bad predicament.
Which, yeah, 100%. But as somebody that plays this game, do you expect to win every time?
Absolutely not. When I travel, I just want to do my best. I have no expectations, and I think it's really not because I play so much online. I'll play 20 tournaments, 25 tournaments, and you're going to get wrecked. I know this, right? You're not winning 25 tournaments. I don't give a shit how good you are. You're not going 25 for 25 with first places or even 25 for 25 with cashes. Pain is going to happen. So I go out there, just expect to do my best. I understand, like, yeah, I probably have an edge over some of the people who study. I'm going to do well, but I want to have a good time. I want to play confidently, and I just want to go experience. And I enjoy getting out there and just doing that. I'm not like out there just expecting to win. As long as I'm playing confidently, doing my best, and just having fun, it's all good, right? I don't want to hold too much, especially for live poker. I'm going to go one table versus thousands of people and expect to win it. It just seems, I think it's good to be confident and think you have an opportunity to, but just to get pissed off every time you don't win a single tournament is too toxic. The poker doesn't work like that.
You brought up an interesting point earlier when I asked you about distractions, and you said you were obsessed, pre-Black Friday, and this was everything. So when you are paying your bills from poker, how did you approach the bad beats and variance? Like, was there one or two things that you did to try to just brush off the pain of poker, or what did you do?
Well, once you have that system in place to protect yourself and you have the funds set aside, right? And so the stress of the losing isn't going to be as detrimental to the mental, right? If you already have the money in your bills or set aside for X amount of time, and, I think at that time, I'm just like, okay, I just need to stay consistent with my process, play less poker, cut down on the tables, review your own play a lot more, move down in stakes until you start winning, get your confidence, and things like that. I think people have too much pride. They don't want to move down. They still want to play all the big stuff, and then they're wrecked. They don't have the confidence, but whenever I'm going through a really shitty phase, I'll just, no pride, move down stakes, spend extra time. I have really cool friends in this game, so I'll ask them to look at my hand histories, talk poker with them, and then once I have the confidence, I'm winning again, they're telling me I'm playing well, we're looking at my stuff and it looks good, then we're just right back to business, and we'll do that, and I'll do that indefinitely until the confidence that is there and we're playing well, right?
Wow, so money management is actually key to surviving bad beats, because if you take the stress level of the finance down, I never thought about that, but that's really interesting.
Yeah, you go down to a stake that you're beating more consistently, you're making more runs at the lower stake. So for me, if I'm playing hundreds and 200s consistently, I'm running pretty bad. I'm going to go down 25, 22s, 55s, and stuff like that, where I know people are going to make more mistakes than I am at much higher frequency. I'm going to have more results, play better, and at the same time, I'm studying, I'm getting input from my friends. I see that I'm playing better. Some of the mistakes that I was making or things I weren't doing well, I'm doing them better now. And then, what happens? You start winning again eventually, right? No matter how long it takes, we keep up with that process. So, yeah.
What is, when you say you go down to the lower tournaments, obviously there's millions of mistakes that you see, but is there one specific mistake that you see players make in those lower stake tournaments that people could take advantage of?
Yeah, I think maybe once people get in the money of tournaments, they're just getting it in way too wide for too many big blinds, So you'll see people punting it off with like ace jack, ace queen for 40, 50 big blinds deep in the money of these tournaments. Bad call-offs, people not aggressive enough. When they have the big stack, they're not taking advantage of enough. People defending too wide or just too passively. So there's a lot of different kind of mistakes player types will make. You have to identify those to make the most money based on your opponent, whatever mistakes you believe they're making. And then at the higher stakes, guys are just playing much better, more solid, more well-rounded. They're putting you to the test more. So yeah, I think at the lower stakes, there's certainly a lot of EV to be won there.
Absolutely. And this wouldn't be a podcast about our biggest mistakes in poker if I didn't ask you this question, so you'll have to bear with me. But
Okay.
What is the biggest mistake you've ever made at a poker table?
The biggest mistake that I've ever made at a poker table, my goodness. I don't play a ton of live. I mean, online, I misclicked folded aces multiple times. I recently on stream, deep in maybe it was the 200K on Ignition. We were blind, the small blind completes. I'm in the big blind, and I just misclicked fold and show 7-8 of diamonds. I was losing, oh no! And we're 17 bigs effective or something like that. So I'm pissed. So little stuff like that online. Yeah, usually live, dude, I'm trying my hardest to stay focused. I'm I don't play a lot of live, so I'm giving it everything I got. But online, dude, the misclicks and stuff like that are just disgusting. Misclick folding a set deep in the high roller once. Oh my goodness. So yeah, stuff like that.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I mean, it's tough as a poker coach to even be asked, what are your mistakes? Because I know a lot of people look up to you. And I do think that anybody that's watching this should check out your Twitch, your Instagram. And I know you got a lot of stuff going on in terms of, coaching streams. And I think a lot of people think about coaching as an expensive thing. But can you kind of talk? I know you have some free offerings too, or at least some cheaper offerings. If you want to talk through those quick. Yeah,
it's awesome, man. I really love the game of poker, man. I honestly just love talking poker with people. It helps me get better. It helps me I just love talking the game. Just stay passionate about it, stay enthused. But poker coaching has given me a pretty cool opportunity. I'm one of the mods in their Discord. I'm one of the coaches in their Discord as well. So every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm able to host some free study groups for anyone that just wants to come in there and join. Every Tuesday it's cash, and every Thursday it's tournaments. And I'm not the guy that believes lecturing people or just talking about a topic and sitting there. That's kind of boring to me. So I like to have conversations with people in the group, ask them what they struggle with certain situations. We'll review one player's hand, and I'll just call on people and ask them what their ranges are in spots. We'll look it up, and I really want to just help people see the game a little bit better. And understand some more of the fundamental things that helps me when I'm regurgitating this information. So I really enjoy talking to a group in that manner, having these discussions, and it's real personable, right? That's what I try to make the study groups, review hand histories, all this stuff. But that's every Tuesday and Thursday at noon Eastern in the Poker Coaching Discord, and that's completely free. I think Poker Coaching does a great job putting out stuff out to the community and beginners who just want to get better. And I'll give them credit, man. I've been working with them for years, and I think they're phenomenal.
Well, I will. If it's cool with you, I'll have you send me the link to the Discord, and I'll put it in the description on this video. So if you guys are watching this and you want to see more, go ahead, click that link, check it out. Also, just like I said, make sure you're checking out Sixes across social media platforms. We're just getting started working together, so I'm really excited to really. Obviously, I'm kind of a wild card. Sixes is here to make me a better player. So hopefully you guys will see me becoming a better player as we work together more.
All right. Hey, man, I really appreciate you having me here, and I look forward to working with you, man. We're going to do some cool stuff, and got an idea. We're going to be on the study stream and stuff, so it'd be great, man. I'm looking forward to doing more work with you, and thank you guys. Make sure to keep following this man's content. It's great. I check it out all the time, so hit that follow button for my friend here as well.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Good luck out there. This has been the Casino King Podcast.
The Casino King Podcast is brought to you by Ignition Casino.